Now it's time to move on to some of the newer technologies, and the very first test I think some of you have been made familiar of is DTI, or diffuse tensor imaging. This is one of those tests that is able to sit on top of the platform of MRI in order to provide a more sophisticated or more sensitive test than an MRI. So an MRI, now combined with special software, this DTI MRI, can actually track water molecules as they travel throughout the axons in the brain cells in our brain. At all times, functionally speaking, these water molecules are sort of passing through these axons. Remember that long horizontal structure. It's kind of like a highway for these water molecules, and they like to travel straight through the axon. Now, when those water molecules are obstructed because of the twisting and the damage to those axons, when that gets to be such a problem that the water molecules have to zigzag, then that's an abnormality. We call that zigzag an abnormal FA, or fractional anisotrophy. When a series of cells in the brain are abnormal in the way that I've just described, then the DTI MRI produces what we call a single voxel. And a voxel, it's depicted in this image above. That blue dot is a single voxel. That shows an abnormality at the smallest level. Now, what's kind of nice about DTI MRI is there are slim odds for error. In other words, the odds of a single voxel appearing in error are well over 600 to 1 against. Just below this image, we see a few voxels, or a series of voxels clustered together, a cluster of voxels. And in order for there to be a cluster of voxels on a DTI MRI, and that is error, is over 4,000 to 1. But the odds of having multiple abnormal clusters visible on a DTI MRI scan, that's virtually impossible. And that's generally what we see in our cases. Here you see damaged bilateral frontal lobes typified by, here are the frontal areas circled in red, and typified by these clusters of voxels. As I said, really can't be error or mistake. These areas of abnormality would be read normal on both a CAT scan and an MRI. So you can see how important the newer technologies really are. Here is a cluster located in the occipital lobe, which is the back of our brain. You can see a rather large cluster there circled in red, as well as some others. Here's a corpus callosum, the actual structure that more or less divides the right and left sides of the brain. And you don't have to know a lot of science to see the normal one on the right-hand side has this beautiful, colorful sort of rooster tail that we can see as a normal, healthy corpus callosum. Look to the left. You just know by your own common sense it's sparse, there are parts missing, and it is an obvious abnormal test result. DTI can be quite effective at detecting the kind of damage we see after a concussion, this diffuse axonal injury. Another positive point about this test is that insurance might cover the MRI part. Remember, it sits on top of an MRI, and that can bring the price down for these tests. And believe me, these tests add up in price, and you want to find ways of making them more affordable. They are overwhelmingly admissible throughout the country, and there are also defenses that are predictable here, as there are in other tests. And again, I'm happy to discuss those with you, only not on camera. So please feel free to contact me at any time.